Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. How is everyone doing tonight? And today, this morning pala. Yo. Anyway, hi. My name is Adrian Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us at Sprout HR and Legal Experts by Sprout. Kamusta naman kayo? How's everyone? I know it's a crucial time right now for HR, and a lot of us are adjusting. So we just have to believe talaga na with perseverance, resilience, and leadership na we're really gonna get through this talaga. It's about being resourceful with the ways that we can actually go through our days right now. So just to give you a brief background and a quick introduction of who we are. So Sprout is actually an HR technology company that helps your company take it to the next level in terms of taking care of your people. We provide systems and support for recruitment, timekeeping to payroll, and analytics. And now we hope to be able to help you lift up your team during this crisis. Right? So today we have three very knowledgeable attorneys and consultants who are here to give you different tips on how to lead your company from outbreak to breakthrough. Please prepare your questions for the fireside chat session later on and ask them anything on your mind regarding legal matters concerning our topic for today, which is general labor standards and flexible work arrangements. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Attorney Lester. He has 12 years experience of human resources management with progressively increasing scope and responsibility in the IT/BPO, consumer goods, manufacturing, and government sectors. At present, he practices the following fields. So fields of law, employment law, contract management, data privacy, administrative law, and family law as an advisor and as an advocate. So I'd like to welcome Attorney Lester. Sir, are you there? Okay. Okay, so while we're waiting muna for a while now, how's everyone doing? Is everyone at their homes right now? I mean, I guess no. It's not really. There's not really that many situations where you can actually go outside. No. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, good morning,
Yeah.
everyone.
Hi. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm very sorry. I've been on the Zoom link for a while, and you know what happens with internet connections when you are doing something critical or time bound. It senses your fear and your anxiety, and then it sort of gives up on you on really quickly, and then you have to scramble to recover. So I hope everyone didn't mind my very short absence from the video. And again, thank you, Adrian. Thank you to all of our attendees today in the webinar. We hope that you are safely home, and we hope that you are complying with the enhanced community quarantine. And we also hope that you're able to best support your organization and your employees at this very critical time. So before launching into my content, I would just like to plug one of my very good friends from high school, Dr. Darwin Bandoy. He has an interview at the Rappler Facebook page. So if you have time today, please listen to his webinar, or rather his interview. His interview is available online at the Facebook account of Rappler. So I would like to invite you to spend an hour or so listening to Dr. Darwin Bandoy, as well as his other co-panelists in that online interview at Rappler. And what they discussed was how some of the epidemiological experts are projecting the duration of this community quarantine. So I think that also underscores the importance of the content today, because we're not, as of today, we are aware that the community quarantine will be until April 14. But if you review the content of the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act, the government already provisioned for 2 months. So we hope that this very, let's say, very weird situation that we are all in does not escalate further. And at the same time, we are continuing with our efforts to support our businesses. So today's topic is actually very important for those who are implementing flexible work arrangements. Okay, so next slide, please. So when the Department of Labor issued Labor Advisory 9-2020, one of the options available to employers to avoid complete cessation of employment of its employees is to allow flexible work arrangements or temporary closures. But in the event of flexible work arrangements, what needs to happen regarding labor standards compliance? Is it suspended? What are the adjustments that we in HR or we in management have to do to make sure that we are still very much complying with labor standards as well as the labor rights of our workers? What are the obligations that we have towards labor standards compliance? We will discuss that today. And we hope that this webinar will be useful to you as you navigate the new landscape. This may or may not be a new way or a new lifestyle of working and delivering our output, but at any rate, our labor laws are very much in place. Okay, so next slide, please. So let's talk about what are the available flexible work arrangements under Labor Advisory 9-2020. If you were with us last week in the first episode of this webinar, you will remember that we discussed in detail Labor Advisory 9-2020. And we also have to make sure that you are refreshed about what are the available flexible work arrangements under this labor advisory. So we go with the first three. So reduction of work days or work hours. This is one where the normal work hours are reduced. Rotation of employees, where employees are rotated. So if you have 5 today, tomorrow we'll have another different set of employees, 5 pa rin sila. And then you do that as the week goes along. The next one is the forced leave, where employees are required to use their paid leaves until it is exhausted to ensure that they are still paid during the duration of the quarantine. And lastly, this is an available alternative work scheme, which is the work from home. Please note that one of the alternatives available to employers under Advisory 9-2020 is also the temporary closure of the business. Please note that in temporary closure, the regular rule of 6 months duration also applies. If you are temporarily closed for longer than 6 months and your employees are not yet reporting for work, you may run the risk of constructive dismissal. So ensure that if you are on a temporary closure, the duration should not be longer than 6 months. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, let's step back and refresh who are the persons who are not mandatorily covered by labor standards. These are enumerated in Article 82 of the Labor Code. So the exclusions to labor standards, these are the people who are not required to enjoy these benefits are the following. Number 1, government employees. Number 2, retail and service establishments regularly employing less than 10 workers. Number 3, kasambahay or other persons in the service of another. This would include your driver, your gardener, and similarly situated employees. 4th is managerial employees, and then 5th is field personnel. So remember, these are already enumerated in Article 82 of the Labor Code. So if any of the employees that you are concerned with fall under any of these 5 categories, they may be excluded unless your company has a policy that's more favorable to them. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is, I would say this is not an original idea. I got this idea from the Statutory Monetary Benefits Handbook. This is how they presented the matrix of labor standards in relation to the kinds of establishment. But in this scenario, in this situation, what we are doing is, what we're doing now is flexible work arrangements in relation with labor standards. So it's color coded red, green, and yellow. So green means fully applicable. Red means absolutely not applicable. Yellow has some fine print. No? So just to give you a brief background, all of the labor standards do not apply to temporary closure because it's temporary. The establishment is temporarily closed. If an establishment is temporarily closed, then your employees do not work. And holiday pay, premium pay, night shift differential, overtime, and service charges all require actually working for them to be eligible for the benefits as stated in the law. Okay. I also take this opportunity to point out that in the cases of forced leave, because you are requiring them to use leaves to be paid, the holiday pay, premium pay, all of these labor standards also do not apply because they are not working, they are merely consuming their leaves. And then those in yellow, we will discuss them further as we go along each labor standard as required in the law. Okay? I'm sure that there will be, questions about forced leave. So if you have any questions on how the forced leave is actually being implemented and monitored by the Department of Labor, we can share that and discuss that later. Okay, next slide, please. I would like to, before going to the content in this slide, I would like to remind all of the HR professionals in the webinar that, this is merely, we're only talking about the eligibility to these benefits. We will not be talking about the rates. It will be a totally different discussion. We will take a lot more time if we go through the rates. So it's either you have an HR or timekeeping payroll system such as Sprout that would already be pre-configured with the rates that you will be applying. Otherwise, you would have your payroll personnel already having an Excel file or another method to ensure correctness in terms of computation. So hindi po natin pag-uusapan ang rate, ang pag-uusapan lang po natin ay eligibility. If you have any questions on the rates, please go to the DOLE website and look for the Statutory Monetary Benefits Handbook. Kompleto po yung laman nun. I would like to reiterate, we're only discussing the applicability of the labor standards here to the flexible work arrangements discussed in Labor Advisory 9-2020. Okay, let's get back to holiday pay. So holiday pay is payment of regular daily wage during the regular holidays. Applicable po ito sa lahat provided na nag-work, meaning kung reduced work days or work hours at ang empleyado natin nag-report on a holiday, they are eligible for holiday pay. If you are on rotation of employees, meaning may set A ng empleyado na nagre-report sa isang schedule, may set B na nagre-report sa ibang schedule, kung sino po yung tamaan ng holiday pay or holiday na nasa trabaho ng mga araw na yon, eligible po sila sa holiday pay. Also, work from home. Wala po sila physically sa ating establishment, but if they are required to work and they do report to work on regular holidays, they are eligible to receive holiday pay. Okay? Heads up po, April 14 po ang projected end ng ating community quarantine. Now, we will have 3 holidays na saklaw ng community quarantine period. And it's very interesting that April 9, the double holiday, there was actually, I think it was a meme going around the HR groups on Facebook na ang tagal-tagal nating diniscuss si April 9, quarantine pala tayo lahat. No? So, April 9 is a double holiday. It's both Monday, Thursday, and Araw ng Kagitingan. April 10 is Good Friday. April 11 is Black Saturday. So, tatlo po ang holidays natin ngayong quarantine period. So, we hope that everyone is able to pay holiday pay if we are requiring our employees to report for work on those dates. Next slide, please. Gusto ko pong i-discuss si April 9. Bakit? Kasi normally, ang DOLE po, nag-i-issue ng DOLE advisory regarding pay for holidays. If you remember, the last time they did it was February 25 kasi po ito ay special holiday. For April 9, standby po tayo sa DOLE advisory if meron. Kung wala man pong DOLE advisory, we treat this as a regular double holiday, meaning 200% if on work, 300% if work. So ulitin ko lang po, kung wala pong inilabas na advisory ang DOLE on or before April 9, kung ano po yung regular rule natin sa holiday pay, yun lang po ang ibabayad natin. Okay, next slide please. Premium pay. Ang premium pay po ay compensation for work performed within the first 8 hours of the day on non-work days, meaning rest day or special holiday. Again, applicable po ito sa rotation of employees, meaning kung ang empleyado ay nag-work sa isang rest day pero nakaikot sila because may rotation of employees kayo na naka-implement, yun pong mga nag-report for work, available po ang premium pay sa kanila. Same with reduction of work days. So kung from a 6-day work week, Monday to Saturday, in-reduce nyo to Monday to Wednesday only, ang inyong establishment, kung rest day po nila ay natapat sa araw na nag-report sila sa trabaho, kailangan po silang bigyan ng premium pay. Of course, work from home, the only difference naman po ng work from home with regular work is that the work is not delivered in the premises of the employer. So sa ganitong pagkakataon po, naka-work from home yung mga tao, pero they are required to render work on rest days or special holidays, please also pay them premium pay. Okay. Next slide, please. Let's talk about night shift differential. Most of the companies who are implementing work from home are actually rendering work na hindi natin kasabay sa Pilipinas yung time zone. So night shift differential po, this refers to additional compensation of 10% of the regular wage for every hour of work na ginawa ni employee from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Again, applicable po ito sa rotation of employees, reduction of work days, as well as work from home. So i-track nyo lang po kung anong oras sila nag-render ng work. Kung sumaklaw po yung shift nila ng 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., yung hours po na nandun sa 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. should be paid the corresponding night shift differential. Okay. Next slide, please. Overtime pay. Ito po, magtatagal po tayong konti dito kasi may fine print po dito, no? So overtime is, ang general rule po natin would be anything in excess of 8 hours on non-work days. Sorry, that would be additional compensation for work performed beyond 8 hours. General po yun. Pakialis po yung non-work days. Any compensation for work performed beyond 8 hours should be paid overtime pay. Applicable po ito sa rotation of employees, sa reduction of work days, as well as work from home. Puntahan po natin yung reduction of work days and work from home. Meron po tayong tinatawag na compressed work week. Ang compressed work week po, ito yung kung 40 hours kayo in 1 week, that's 8 hours times 5. So 40 hours in work week, that's 8 hours for 5 days in a week. Allowed po kayong i-compress ito. Yung compressed work week po na yun, may kasama po yun na waiver for overtime pay kasi kung ang 40 hours work week mo is 8 by 5, gagawin mong 10 by 4 to retain the 40 hours in a week. Kailangan pa rin po ng waiver. Otherwise, magkakaroon po ng additional obligation si employer to pay overtime pay. But allowed naman po ni DOLE na in cases of compressed work week, pwede pong mag-waiver of overtime pay para hindi na mag-pay ulit si employer ng overtime for those persons who who reported for work within a 10-hour work shift na ni-reduce naman yung number of days. So, ano po ibig sabihin nito? So, please, if you are implementing a reduced work days or work hour schedule, i-ensure nyo lang po na yung 8 hours is just pay the regular. And then, anything in excess doon, kung wala naman kayong compressed work week and waiver, overtime eligible na po iyon. Now, let's go to work from home. Kung ang work from home po natin ay nakalagay, may shift na rin yan, diba? Ang magiging tanong sa work from home is how do you now track sino yung nag-overtime? Kasi pwede namang nag-lunch break siya ng 2 oras. Pwede namang nag-jogging siya ng 1.5 oras, no? Or natulog siya ng 2 oras within the shift. So there's no way to monitor that. Ang pangontra po natin doon, or to make sure that it's fair also to the employer, is that the general rule of prior management approval applies even if the employee is on work from home. Ano pong ibig sabihin natin dito? Pagka po nagbabayad kayo ng overtime, siguraduhin nyo po na may proseso yung inyong documentation ng management approval bago sila actually mag-render ng overtime work. Dahil kung wala pong management approval before the overtime work is rendered, pwede pong hindi bayaran ng overtime. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Kung ang overtime initiated ni employee at walang management approval, maaari itong hindi bayaran. Pero kung whether it's employee or employer na nag-initiate, basta may management approval, kailangan bayad po yung overtime. Sa mga ganitong pagkakataon po, it really makes sense to invest in an HR or timekeeping system that would allow an employer to track the actual work hours rendered by employees, especially if the employees are virtual or hindi po natin physically masusupervise yung work ng ating employees. Okay? So yun lamang po. Ang takeaway ko lang po dito na gusto kong ang takeaway po ninyo na gusto kong makuha nyo from this slide is that if there is no management approval, you are not required to pay overtime. But if you have management approval and there is work rendered by the employee beyond 8 hours, you are required to pay. Okay? Iko-correct po natin yun pong slide. It should be for every 8 hours. Pag beyond 8 hours po, overtime eligible na po iyon. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, service charge. Ngayon po, if you remember, sometime late last year, the law was amended. The old rule required a management split. So may cut po na 15% ang employer to serve as, ang tawag po natin doon is cost for, or rather earnings for breakage. So kung may mga nababasag na mga plato, pinggan, baso, doon po sa 15% service charge yun maaaring kunin. But Congress amended that law and now requires 100% of the service charges to be distributed to covered employees. While we are aware that during the community quarantine, dine-in transactions or in restaurants or other establishments that may impose a service charge is prohibited during the community quarantine period, there may still be establishments who do charge the SC. So we would like to remind that for cases where service charge is still charged to the patrons or to the clients, please continue distributing it as regular as if wala pong nangyaring changes sa service charge. Bakit? Basta po sumisingil kayo ng service charge, kailangan nyo po siyang i-distribute. Okay? Next slide, please. We now go to statutory leaves. Nakadilaw po ito doon sa first slide natin. Bakit? May konti pong fine print ito. So let's talk about maternity leave first. Maternity leave is recently amended from the 60 and 78 days, naging na po itong 105 days with full pay. You add 15 days if the employee who gave birth is a solo parent. But in cases of miscarriage, it's 60 days. There's also an additional 30 days unpaid leave at the option of the employee. And please also note that there's a 7-day transferable benefit to the father or to the alternate caregiver. So kung married po si employee, pwede po siya mag-transfer ng 7 days sa kanyang asawa. Or kung wala man pong asawa yung ating empleyado na nanganak, meron po siyang pwedeng i-elect na alternate caregiver. Pwede po itong yung lola or another romantic partner or somebody who alternatively provides care for the child. Pwede pong ilipat yung 7 days. May notice requirement po yan. So kailangan pong mag-comply ni employee dun sa MAT1, sa SSS, or any other method or documentation to show that indeed the employee is about to give birth. Bakit ko po ito diniscuss? Kasi kung meron po kayong empleyado na mag-kick in or magiging start ng maternity leave niya during the enhanced quarantine period, kailangan po ninyong bayaran pa rin iyon. Okay? And then if meron po siyang option na unpaid or other, yung itatransfer niya sa kanyang alternate caregiver or father, yung 7 days, kailangan nyo pa rin pong irespeto iyon. Further, please note, may Section 5 po yung Expanded Maternity Leave Law, which says that the right to avail the maternity leave is already available even if the termination of employment occurs not more than 15 days after termination of service. Meaning, kung ita-terminate po ninyo ang isang empleyado ng ipagpalagay nating April 5, kung nagsimula po tayo ng community quarantine ng March 12 at ang termination date po niya ay pagpalagay nating March 27, eksakto po yung 15 days. At nakapag-file po siya ng maternity leave prior to the termination, meaning alam nyo na buntis siya at magbibigay siya ng mag-give birth siya anytime between the date that the community quarantine was implemented and the target date of termination, which is today, kailangan nyo pa rin po siyang bayaran ng maternity leave. Why? Because the law now requires that if the termination date is within 15 days, if the availment of the maternity leave is within 15 days of the termination of service of the employee, the employer must pay the maternity leave benefit of the employee. Ulitin ko po, if the delivery date or the availment of the maternity leave is within 15 days of the termination of employment for any cause, the employer must pay the maternity leave benefit of the employee. Okay? Next slide, please. We also discussed the other statutory leaves. So for paternity leave, again, available po ito sa lahat ng instances ng flexible work arrangement. Again, the paternity leave is applicable only to the first 4 deliveries of the legitimate spouse. Kailangan po kasal. And then 7 calendar days with full pay. The solo parent leave is also available to all instances of flexible work arrangements. The solo parent leave is 7 work days for every year, and the requirement only is that the employee has rendered 1 full year of service and submitted a solo parent ID to the employer. Wag naman po sanang magkaroon ng instance na mag-avail ang ating empleyado ng VAUC leave. The VAUC leave or the Violence Against Women and Children leave gives employees 10 days with full pay, provided there is a certification from the chairman of the barangay, the city prosecutor, or the clerk of court that the employee is filing a case of RA 9262 or Violence Against Women and Children against a partner or somebody with whom she has had a dating relationship with. Also, we have the Magna Carta leave. Ito po ay 60 days of full pay on account of gynecological surgery. And then at least 6 months of service for the last 12 months prior to surgery. Ang requirement lang po dito ay certification ng attending physician na nagkaroon ng gynecological surgery si employee na female. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so to recap, i-recap po natin lahat ng batas, including general labor standards, lahat po sila in force and effect even during the community quarantine period. So we leave you with three reminders. Number one, please comply with Labor Advisory 9-2020 or the flexible work arrangements. This also allows you to apply for the DOLE camp. Number two, please ensure compliance with general labor standards. And lastly, keep communication lines with your employees open. Yun pong mga leaves na diniscuss natin as well as the other benefits here. Maganda po na aware ang ating employees regarding their rights as well as their obligations during the period of the community quarantine. Mataas po ang level of uncertainty ng ating ng bansa, no? And having one less thing to worry about will do well in terms of collective sanity and peace and order. So tulungan po natin ang ating government officials in making at least the employed sector, yung mga na nasa formal employment sector na hindi po nag-aalala regarding their availment of benefits during the community quarantine period. Makakatulong po ito sa kanilang well-being as well as pagka po walang pinoproblema, wala pong stress, mataas po ang immune resistance sa mga tao, nakakatulong po tayo in the big picture. Yun lamang po. We hope that this webinar was informative and I turn over the floor back to Adrian.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So we all really appreciate the very informative talk that you gave. So with this, I'd like to introduce our first panelist also. So please let us welcome Ray Salvador. He is a seasoned audit and risk management professional with 9 years of experience from various industries like IT, BPO, tech companies, manufacturing, real estate, financial institution, and service companies. He had performed a wide range of engagements from conducting audit in finance, IT operations, compliance, and taxation, to assisting companies in establishing their risk management procedures, including business continuity plans. He's a certified public accountant with an ISO 31000 certified lead risk manager. So for our second panelist has 12 years of experience of background in the HR field. She is an experienced HR practitioner, handling all facets of HR life cycle, both locally and overseas, including recruitment, employee and labor relations, and organizational development. She specializes particularly in labor, civil, and commercial law. Please, everyone, let's welcome Attorney Arlene. Right?
Hi, guys.
Hi, ladies and gents. So you guys can start asking your questions using the Zoom chat. So give me a few seconds to check here. All right. Okay, so to start
Adrian,
off,
I'd also like to acknowledge we have our very own Attorney Ryan Trinidad. He's manning the chats.
Yes. Hi, Attorney Ryan. So first question I saw here was, how do you know which flexible work arrangements will best fit a company?
Okay, I can answer that. Well, so as what Attorney Lester said earlier, the government really wants us to be creative and compassionate during this time of crisis. And so the general rule is, if you can do business as usual and there's no diminution in pay and you can have all your employees just work from home, then by all means do that. But of course, we understand that each company is unique and that each company has different methods and practices and culture. And so the first step for you to determine which work or arrangement suits you is to determine the goal of your organization. So what is the goal? Is it countering the financial losses, or is it making all your employees active during the season because chances are there's more work for them? Or is it really reducing the manpower during these days because there's not a lot of clients? So determine the goal. And once you've identified the goal, it's important for you to determine your team capacities and capabilities. And by capacities and capabilities, I would mean technical or technological capabilities, also your organizational capabilities. So technical capabilities would include, let's say, internet connectivity. Because what if your employees are placed in a remote, rural area where there's no access to internet? So the natural and logical thing for you to do is to place them temporarily on forced leave. But if and when your employees have great internet connection, then you don't have to do that. Maybe you just do the work from home arrangement. And other than that, also the organizational aspect. So what's your company culture? Like, are your managers well equipped? Are your managers capable of measuring productivity on a day-to-day basis while you're doing the work from home? So, once you have this, then you can create your plan. And then the most important thing is you test out your plan. So it requires really a dedication of time and resources to figure it out so that you could be very well prepared during the cultural change process.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Attorney Arlene. Maybe we could go with this question next. No. Question number 2 is: with employees working from home, it's hard to track productivity. What are ways to monitor employee productivity without going to extremes, such as using webcams or other micromanaging tools?
Okay, well, for me, but maybe Attorney Lester can dovetail on this later. For me, the ways would be, of course, you have to have a really good time tracking for attendance. So tracking the attendance. So like with Sprout, we use the Web Bundy and the mobile app in order to track the attendance of employees. So with the mobile app, it's everywhere. With the Web Bundy, it's the same thing. It's embedded in the system. And then we do the daily stand-up meeting, and then we have a productivity report at the end of the shift, and then this daily report is converted to weekly, and then this weekly converted to monthly, monthly converted to quarterly, which we in turn present to our investors. There's also this feature in Sprout HR where we have this Sprout Insight. And most of our clients use it for productivity because Sprout Insight is a data analytics tool. And what it does is, you can, with one flick of a finger, you can have instant access to the data of your employees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Correct. That's actually something that we can do. Something that we can help with. No, Tama. Sorry. Go ahead, Attorney.
Yeah, Adrian, Attorney, thank you for that. I'd like to dovetail what Attorney A said. No, one thing that would really work is having a high trust culture. If your organization is mature enough, as well as your personnel are mature enough, people would be mindful of their output. Some people would want to have, let's all admit it, working from home is a totally different environment. We're all used to, being in an office, being sociable with our colleagues, with the peers that we are working with. So you build that high trust environment over time. And one thing that I can share, at least for the legal department, is that aside from the operational activities that Attorney A mentioned earlier, the DSM, the daily status monitoring, as well as the calls that we do, we also try our best to, have interactions outside of work. Last Friday, we actually had a WhatsApp e-Newman session. It was after work, and it was a time for us to get to know our team. We actually have several new hires in the team, and we're trying our best in the department to assimilate them into the company culture, and having those informal touch points that don't talk about work is equally important to monitoring actual output. That's it, Adrian.
Okay, thank you very much for the input. So yeah, let's move on to another question for now. So for rotation of employees, when an employee is not working on the specified day, are they still compensated?
For rotation, Go ahead, sorry.
Sige, ikaw na, attorney. Nagkahayaan pa. Sige, go.
Yeah, for rotation of employees, that means that people are, you have a team A and a team B or even a team C na nagro-rotate sila just so avoid yung outcome na wala sila lahat trabaho. So you distribute the work so that people, kumbaga you have just a smaller pie of the work to distribute among your employees. So ang isang ano dito would be sino yung tatapat sa holiday na may premium pay. This is an instance that you have to really exercise fairness and show that you are transparent na walang favoritism. So if you have some people who are let's say mga masakit sa ulo and then you're foreseeing na magiging problema sila in the event of a rotation and kumbaga walang tao sa opisina, walang police, walang nagbabantay sa kanila and then sila may iiwan sa tindahan, medyo mahirap yon, no? So one thing about rotation of employees is mix your personnel such that the collective work psyche of the team who is actually doing the work is high, high morale, high motivation, and you are able to trust them to deliver the work even if some of them are not enjoying the premium pay. So communication really is very important in this instance.
Okay, and to dovetail on that, so actually, if you're on a rotational shift, the no work, no pay applies, and this is in accordance with the DOLE's 2019 handbook on the workers' statutory monetary benefits, and also Labor Advisory 90/2020. And in the 2019 handbook, it states that when an employer has to reduce the number of regular working days to prevent, let's say, serious business losses, then the employer may deduct the wages corresponding to the days taken off from the work week, consistent with the principle of no work, no pay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Attorney Lester, Attorney Arlene. Very insightful po.
Adrian?
Yes. Hi. Hello?
Yeah.
Ayan. Okay, great. Sige po, let's move on to another question. So, another one that we got, this one concerning overtime pay again. If the employee is asked to stay in the office for 1 month due to extended community quarantine, are we mandated to pay the entire period, including off?
1 month?
Yes, 1 month.
I'd like to clarify that, no? Kasi what could have happened, I hope we can get more context there, but if you make them stay for 1 full month, you're actually violating the mandatory 24-hour uninterrupted rest day for every 6 days of work. No, so it's also it's also unfair for the employer to absorb that cost in terms of overtime pay. So let's treat it logically. How? Let's define the work hours first. What is the regular work shift required of the employee, and what is the time that he is allowed to, on a limited period, subject to the rules of the community quarantine, he is allowed the time to do whatever he wants to do in the premises of the company. I can foresee this, for example, in logistics and warehousing organizations. Baka yung mga warehouse personnel natin, yung mga materials handlers natin, forklift operators, instead of going home to their respective provinces, they opted to stay because of the volume of work during the period of community quarantine. So in these cases, please impose a definite work schedule for them to observe. And if they are, again, the regular rules on overtime applies, meaning if walang prior management approval, hindi kailangan magbayad ng overtime. Again, I would also like to emphasize one item in Labor Advisory 9/2020, which is flexibility and compassion. The Department of Labor is mandating all employers to exercise flexibility and compassion. And last Friday's episode, I added creativity in addressing this very odd circumstances that we find ourselves in. So, yun lang yung guideposts na I would like to share to the person who asked.
Okay. Thank you for that, sir. I guess flip side naman nun, one question that we got also is, can we validly impose disciplinary sanctions against an employee who refuses to participate in the company's work at home policy?
Well, definitely, the company can impose sanctions. Again, as what Attorney Lester said a while ago, the provisions in the labor standards and labor laws is not suspended. And so if you have it in your company policy that during work from home you are to abide by the certain rules and regulations, then if a person violated it, then naturally it is the right of the employer to give necessary sanctions to it. Otherwise, our world will be chaotic.
True, true. Tama naman. One question from the Facebook live chat that we got. Pwede po ba i-force leave ang employees? What will be the treatment if the employees don't want to use their available leave credits? Would it be applied to no work, no pay? Question mark.
Yep. For please note that the forced leave provision.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah. So please note that the forced leave provision is consistent with the general rule of the labor code, which is no work, no pay. Meaning, if there's no productive work on the part of the employee, there is no obligation on the part of the employer to pay. Now, where does forced leave come into the picture? I am aware that a lot of our HR colleagues actually have some confusion because there were some press releases and media engagements of DOLE officials saying na the employee has the right to use the leave. That's correct to a certain extent. But you go back to the text of the laws and the regulations. Forced leave would apply because, if there's no work, then there's no pay. So if the employee does not want to use his leaves, paano mo siya babayaran? You now have the option to offer the use of the leaves to him or her. You have 15 VLs available. Do you want to use this for the community quarantine, or do you opt to not be paid? The choice is ultimately with the employee. But as far as reporting under DOLE 09-2020 is concerned, you are imposing a forced leave option as far as legal compliance is concerned.
Agreed. To dovetail on that, actually there's a decided case in the Supreme Court already, and it's Philippine Graphic Arts versus NLRC. And here, the Supreme Court said that forced leave that's temporary in nature and that is a more humane solution instead of retrenchment or reduction of personnel is valid and legal. So the answer to that is yes, forced leave is legal.
Ay, dagdagan ko lang pala, Attorney A, and to our audience. Also, please make sure that you're not doing it in bad faith.
That's true.
If you force, particular employees, may mga hindi ka lang trip, and then ikaw forced leave ka, yung iba full paid. That's bad. You will get in more trouble if you do that.
Correct. There must be an underlying reason for it. Let's say deteriorating economic conditions or business suffering from losses, and there must be a criteria for it. Like who do you place in this forced leave?
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I guess a quick follow up to that one now. No, this would apply for probationary /
Adrian?
Yes. Hi. Am I on mute? Oh, no. Hello?
Adrian, I think we're having trouble in your audio. Please, can you try speaking closer to your mic?
Sige. Is it clear now? Sorry about that.
Thank you, Adrian.
Yeah. I guess a follow-up to that earlier question, our earlier discussion was, does it apply also to probationary or non-regular employees as well? The no work, no pay.
Yes, it applies to probationary and to other forms of employment.
Okay, great. Next question that we have here, Paul, is, can employee fringe benefits such as educational assistance promised in the contract be turned to cash assistance during this time? What other benefits can be offered during this time as well?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to take into consideration the labor law on non-diminution of benefits. So educational assistance, for it to be valid or converted into cash, the equivalent amount should be equal or at least greater than the current educational assistance. But if it is a cash benefit that will be converted to, let's say, an educational assistance, then that can't be, unless you really have a valid agreement with the employee that they wanted it that way. Attorney Lester?
Yep, I'd like to add, I would like also to emphasize the flexibility and compassion, and my own personal addition, which is creativity. No, you may be in a position that you want to give more benefits to your employees now, because with the community quarantine, yung earnings nila are in jeopardy. So one of the options that you might want to explore would be, at least for the clients of Sprout, we have the Sprout loans option, which is a quick cash advance. It's an unsecured loan that we can activate in the Sprout system in as fast as less than 5 minutes. I think the record is 30 seconds, right? So if you have, we also are implementing right now, Sprout is implementing what we call a rescue kit for MSMEs. So for a period of 60 days, we are offering the Sprout system for free. And this would at least give employees who do not have, or rather employers who do not have HR timekeeping systems in place yet, at least during the 60-day period where we are all on enhanced community quarantine, you have something to monitor timekeeping and attendance with. And with it comes the option to offer this Sprout Loans feature, which is again a quick cash loan that can be availed of in as fast as 2 minutes, I think. Mabilis.
Yeah.
Kanina 5 minutes, ngayon 2 minutes. Basta alam ko mabilis.
Yeah, 2 minutes yung record nun, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Naman. Okay, thank you for
Thanks,
that
Adrian.
the input po. I guess moving on po, another question we have here is, it's a long one. How do you manage the IT and security risks of working from home? Leading practices of BPOs to protect data include prohibiting the bringing or use of mobile phones in the production floor, and restricting access over prohibited websites, both of which are not possible from the work from home arrangements. Any ideas or any tips daw po?
Okay. For this one, Adrian,
I'm
currently
not sure if I get the ano.
Sige, Attorney Arlene.
Go, Ray. Sige,
Okay,
go.
sige. For Sprout, we have a lot of policies and procedures in place. For example, since naka-work from home yung mga employees natin, we are implementing also security or detective controls to ensure that any changes or modification within our system are within their authorities or scope of work. At the same time, as part of preventive control, we've also implemented measures like access SOD, and also for security as well in place, IT security protocols, we have that. And we, aside from CCTVs, we have CCTVs that is viewed or reviewed every other day or every 2 day, T+1, which means today it will be reviewed that next day. So that's one of our detective controls or measures to ensure that our asset, not only a tangible asset, but also our resources like informations provided to us by our employees or stakeholders like customers are well protected then. So it all boils down how you will implement or your current setup as to your existing policies and procedures. Sprout as an ISO 27001 Information Security Management System compliant or certified, we have been practicing this one from the awareness of the employee during the onboarding up to the usual training or annual trainings of each employees. So medyo maraming processes to in place, and that should be practiced even though naka-work from home yung mga employees natin.
Okay, very good input po, Sir Ray. Anyone else from the panel po would like to add in?
Actually, I'll plug na the April 3. The April 3 webinar is entitled DPA in the work from home arrangement. So that's where you'll have the tips on what to do during work from home and the security issues associated with it.
Okay, great. Thank you for plugging that, Attorney A. Now, so let's move to another question po. For any regular allowances, taxed or not, if any, what is the call of other companies on releasing this? And if we put that on hold while on lockdown, are we at risk of any legal exposure?
Let me just disclaim that the question requires a different level of engagement. If you're talking about benefits that you are offering, we'll have to see the fine print before we can actually say if you will be getting into legal risk. So we will not answer directly the question if there will be any legal risk. What I will do is instead, I will share what would be yung pinaka acceptable na diskarte for me in this instance. So you have two kinds of benefits. One would be something that's associated with attendance at work. Second would be benefits that are given no matter what the attendance level is. For example, if your company policy is to give communication and transportation allowance, and it's explicit in your policy that availment of that allowance is subject to 75% attendance or more, then you may have the option to withdraw it temporarily while we are on community quarantine. But take note that you also need to comply with the concept of non-diminution of benefits. If your benefit is only stated communication and transportation allowance and then wala kayong policy, meaning hindi malinaw kung kailangan 100% attendance ka or not, ibigay nyo yung benefit.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If not, let's move on to another question here. So, one person wants to know: is it right to terminate probationary employees just to reduce the labor cost of the company?
I would like to go back to the regular rules in terms of termination of probationary employment. So the probationary period should not exceed 6 months, and you also have to impose, or rather clearly communicate and document the standards by which a probationary employee will be evaluated for eventual regularization of employment. If it is clear to both parties, both the probationary employee and the employer, that the probationary employee is not meeting the standards for regularization, then document that non-performance and then communicate the decision to end the probationary employment. If the only reason for termination of employment is you want to reduce labor cost, then you are looking at the wrong way of doing it. Okay, so I want to reiterate that, Adrian. If you are talking about probationary employment, again, all the regular rules, laws, and regulations are still in place. The only difference is mayroon po tayong community quarantine. So for probationary employment, the rules are clear. You only need to communicate with them and document the standards for regularization. If they fail, you can terminate. If they don't fail, you have no reason to terminate.
Okay, claro. Clear naman sa akin.
Thank you, Jan.
Hopefully that answered that person's question. Another one here that we have is, are there any other financial or health assistance that the government provides to employees except the camp financial assistance?
Yeah, I would like to point you out to DOLE Department Order 210, which is the TUPAD program. So for a period of 10 days, employees who are displaced, meaning yung mga naka-temporary closure, pwede silang mag-apply with their PESO, yung Private Employment Services Office ng inyong LGU. They are offering 10 days of minimum wage prevailing in the region for 10 days of work disinfecting the households and public places in the LGU. So please review your Department Order 210, it talks about the TUPAD program. Ang availment po nun is the employee who is displaced applies to the PESO, to the Private Employment Services Office of the LGU. And ang kapalit po nun, 10 days of work doing disinfecting in the LGU. And then the equivalent pay is 10 days of minimum wage prevailing in the region.
Okay. So I guess to wrap things up, we have one last question here. Is it valid or fair if an employee further claims reimbursements for electricity or other resources such as internet, personal hardware usage that he consumes during working from home?
I would like to frame a response in terms of BCP preparedness. So Ray, I will bounce the question to you for the BCP component. But from a legal perspective, kung wala po kayong company policy, pwede niyo pong pag-usapan. Again, Labor Advisory 9-2020 requires flexibility and compassion on the part of the employer. So please explore it, communicate it with your employees. Kung hindi po kaya ng finances ng employer, baka naman po pwedeng hindi. Kasi these are extraordinary times. Bayanihan po tayo to address the COVID epidemic, and we all have to pull our weight. Hindi po pwedeng meron tayong we're in the formal employed sector naman. So baka naman pwede tayong magtulong-tulong muna kasi kakaiba po talaga yung circumstances natin ngayon. So I will now transition the answer to Ray for the BCP preparedness na component ng sagot.
Okay. Thanks, Attorney Lester. For the BCP part, that would depend if this BCP or action plan during a disaster, or for example, the current disruption, was agreed by the employee, or the employee are also aware na gagamitin yung personal assets nila, for example, laptop or work tools like internet, especially if they don't have an allowance for this one. So was it agreed that personally, since the employee will no longer travel from their home address to their office, na okay lang ba they should be shouldered with this one, or it should be covered by the company? So again, awareness of the PCP is very important, and this employee should agree as well as to the action plans of the company. So for the legal matters, as noted earlier by Attorney Lester, let's be creative at the same time compassionate. This is extraordinary times that require different measures than the usual. And I think that's it for the BCP part. Adrian?
Okay. Thank you everyone for the input. I think that wraps about the top. We don't have enough time na for the panel session. So for the questions po that we weren't able to answer, we'll email everyone who joined the webinar a list of all your unanswered questions with some advice from our attorneys. So thank you again to everyone who participated. Thank you, Attorney Lester, Sir Ray, Attorney A, and Attorney Ryan for manning the chat also. Thank you very much, everyone, for your time this morning.
Thank you. Keep safe, everyone.
Yeah, so before we end, I'd just like to inform everyone that with Sprout HR and Sprout Payroll, you can actually continue your work at the comforts of your home. Given that we are also a cloud-based system talaga. So as mentioned earlier, you can actually do everything very easily from the convenience of your home. So from outbreak to breakthrough, yun yung tagline niya. So another thing is we would also like to let you know about our upcoming events. So please follow our social media pages. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. You can also use these hashtags to actually check and be up to date with our posts naman. Okay? And for anyone who needs e-certificates for attending this session, here are the instructions on how you get them. So just send an email request to info@sprout.ph, indicate your full name, your company, and your position. And then we'll send the certificate to you guys. Okay? That's about it. Thank you everyone for joining this session. Please look forward to the next webinars that we'll be having. Again, please stay safe, stay in your homes, and God bless.